Hello everyone, this is part 14 of What If Naruto Was Reborn as a Shinigami, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist. To see more, comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. Itachi turned slowly to look at the angelic figure behind him, and his eyes widened slightly when he beheld the boy's full presence. The wings, splayed out for display, gave him a frightening appearance and yet, a calming one as well. The eyes, though, are what caused him the most trouble. He'd gone up against the three greatest doujutsu in the world, but nothing prepared him for the glowing silver eyes of Uzumaki Naruto. He shivered slightly, the only sign of his discomfort. Naruto eyed the Uchiha warily. The man's eyes weren't transformed to the Mangekyo or the normal Sharingan, but he was still dangerous. Naruto flapped his wings in annoyance and narrowed his eyes when Itachi's eyes wavered slightly. Drop the genjutsu around your eyes, Itachi. I thought you said no deception. Itachi's mouth quirked slightly as he let the illusion fade. We're shinobi, Naruto-kun. Deception is our trade. Tell me, what has happened to you? Naruto remained motionless, his eyes trained anywhere but the Uchiha. I don't wish to talk about it. Was it the Kyuubi? No. I see. Silence reigned between them until Naruto became impatient again. What do you want, Itachi? I don't have all night. The Uchiha made a show of ignoring him, and Naruto soon tired of the game. He turned to walk away, his wings fluttering slightly as they folded back to their prone position. I want to test myself, at my fullest potential, against you, at your fullest potential. Naruto stopped walking and turned around slowly, still not facing Itachi. And how do you propose we do that? I constantly have you and the Akatsuki after me, and you always have Sasuke on your tail. We can't just fight for the sake of fighting, we'll both be ked. And I thought you were a genius. And I thought you had become smarter. I'm proposing we join forces. Not even crickets dared to chirp as the heavy thunder of silence rolled over the monument. What? I propose we form an alliance. I help you covertly get rid of the Akatsuki, one by one, and you help me attain what I desire from Sasuke. And that is his eyes. Naruto quirked an eyebrow and scowled. He already knew the answer, but wanted to see what he could wheedle out of Itachi. Why? That is for me to know. You just need to agree to the circumstances. Once all of our obstacles are out of the way, I desire a one-on-one fight, on neutral ground, to see how far our limits can go. That's insane. Itachi narrowed his eyes slightly and his voice became a little harsh. Excuse me. That's insane. You're talking about wiping out the most powerful ninjas in the world. My mission is to rid the world of Orochimaru and Uchiha Madara. I don't have time for your petty delusions of grandeur. How do you know about Madara? Naruto cursed himself for a fool. That was a slip-up that he shouldn't have made. Now Itachi would be suspicious. Instantly, the Uchiha was before him, his hand wrapped around Naruto's tea. How do you know about Madara? I have my ways. I know he pulls your strings. He thinks he does. You know more than you let on, Uzumaki. I need your help and you need mine. This pact is beneficial for both of us. I will give you time to think on it. I give you 1 week and then I shall seek you out again. I expect an answer. Before Itachi disappeared, Naruto latched onto his arm. The Uchiha was surprised by the strong grip and found himself facing those damnable silver eyes that seemed to penetrate the soul. Itachi, if I accept this, if I do, then I want no duplicity. This is between you and me, no one else. If we do have this battle, you have to promise me one thing. And that is, that, win or lose, once the battle is finished and we have both risen to new heights, that you will cease your quest for the one who can kill you. Itachi nodded slowly and shrugged his arm away from the blonde. I believe that, after our battle, and it will come to be, that I will have no reason to pursue someone to kill me anymore. If you cannot accomplish that, then I am doomed to walk this world forever. As the Uchiha began to disappear, Naruto threw him one last piece of advice. Remember, Itachi, immortality does not mean one is invincible. It just means that death is postponed. Itachi would think about those words for many nights. Naruto walked back through the door and was met with a fuming Tenten. His wings retracted into their tattoos as he entered the house and she grabbed him by both arms, slamming him against the wall. Where were you? Out, she growled and her eyes began to water. She grabbed him again and thrust him harder against the wall. Damn it, Naruto. I know you were with Itachi. How could you do that? He could have killed you. He can't kill me. Her eyes burned with anger and her teeth clenched impossibly hard. Oh, so you think just because you went toe-to-toe with him once and survived that you're Billy Badass and can take on the world? I'm not losing you over stupid Naruto. You can't just go off and take the world's burdens on your shoulders. His gaze softened and he looked her in the eye, blinking slowly. Leaning forward, he kissed her on her forehead. I'm not taking the burdens of the world on my shoulders, Ten-chan. In fact, I may have just gained an unlikely ally to help alleviate some of that weight. She let him lead her to the couch and once they were seated, she leaned against his shoulder. Who? Itachi. He felt her stiffen and braced himself for the shouting that was to come. But it never did. Instead, a hushed whisper broke through the darkness. Why? He sighed and placed his arm around her shoulder, pulling her closer, before closing his eyes and calling out. You two might as well come out. I know you're there. Tenten watched as Sanosuke emerged from the shadows of her kitchen and Jiraiya materialized out of nowhere by the wall in front of them. Sanosuke sighed as he stepped forward. I guess you knew I was there on the monument the whole time. I did, and you said nothing. Naruto shrugged. No reason to give away a trump card. I replaced myself with a clone before I arrived there anyway, in case he tried to use Tsukiyomi on me. I was behind you the whole time. And me? Naruto snorted and looked at the Toad Sannin with a smirk. It's impossible not to find you. You smell of sake and cheap s. Jiraiya ground his teeth but regained his composure when he heard Tenten giggle. It was too early to K the boy because of yet another insult. So, brat, what are you going to do? Accept or decline? I haven't made up my mind yet. It's a tough decision. He would be a valuable ally, but could I trust him? Jiraiya shook his head and sat in a chair. I say no. He's a traitorous bastard, only caring for his own goals. He'll betray you eventually. Naruto nodded. I know that, but that's all Itachi knows how to do is betray. I don't even know if he's honest with himself half the time. The question is, at what point would he betray us? Or would he at all? If you can provide him with the challenge he seeks, Itachi may become loyal to you, until your inevitable battle. The enemy of the enemy is my friend, after all. Naruto nodded at Sanosuke's words, but Tenten wasn't as impressed. But Itachi is the enemy. Just because he would betray his comrades now doesn't mean we can trust him fully. Just as he can't trust us fully. It's a two-way street here. The only thing Naruto and Itachi have to go on are their word. I say go for it. I'll remain in the background when you speak to him and can notify the others if you need help. I'm not allowed to interfere, but I can do that at least. Naruto nodded in agreement. Tenten swung her head back and forth between the two angels, while Jiraiya just looked pensive. He finally spoke up, voicing his opinion. While I don't like the idea of teaming up with a bastard like Itachi, I have to say that his plan works both ways. You both get rid of Sasuke, you both get rid of Madara, and you both get rid of Akatsuki. The only thing he appears to want out of this is a final battle between you two. The group went quiet for several minutes, each sorting through their thoughts, trying to find the next thing to say. Naruto finally found something to say. I don't think we should tell Tsunade about this. We shouldn't tell anyone for that matter. Tenten nodded in agreement. I think so too. It would be bad if she found out and she'd try to stop you for sure. I'm not too sure about this myself. How am I going to help? Naruto grinned down at her and pecked her on the cheek. By being Tenten. Don't worry, I'm sure we'll have you kicking S-class ninja ass in no time. Sanosuke nodded and cleared his tea. I believe that's enough excitement for one day. Jiraiya, let's go. I'll see you all on the day of departure. The three nodded and watched as Sanosuke disappeared. Jiraiya sighed and turned around to face Naruto. He hadn't seen his pupil in quite a while. That's a hell of a wardrobe change, kid. What the hell has been going on, besides the obvious? Naruto heard Tenten yawn and shifted her so that she could lie out on the couch, her head in his lap. He sent a clone to retrieve a blanket and settled in for the long telling of the tale. This might take a while, Ero-Senin, so get comfortable. Jiraiya could only shake his head in disbelief. The tale he had just heard sounded like something he would have written in his younger days. He really wished he had a drink right now. Holy S, is there anything I didn't miss while I was gone? Well, no. Jiraiya hung his head in shame. He'd only been gone a few months, how in the hell could things change so much? His boneheaded student was no longer boneheaded and, man, things had changed. Jiraiya stood and made his way to the door. Naruto looked at the older man quizzically and called out, asking him where he was going. Jiraiya turned with a sad look in his eyes. I'm going to mourn the loss of my student. You're Naruto, but you're no longer the Naruto I trained. The Naruto I trained is long gone. Now I'm supposed to correct the mistakes I made, but I'm not sure if that's possible when I was trying to do the best I could with what I knew. I'm not even sure where I supposedly screwed up. Naruto watched sadly as his mentor closed the door slowly behind him. He couldn't imagine what Jiraiya was going through right now. It just seemed like the poor man couldn't catch a break. You could have said something, you know. Naruto looked down at Tenten, sorrow still in his eyes. How long have you been awake? Since you started telling him what has happened in the past few months. You could have let him down a little bit easier, you know. I never was good at being subtle. He needs to know that you don't blame him, Naruto. He was just trying to do his best. Who in their right mind knows how to deal with Jinchurikis? It's not like it's a docented experience. No, but I shouldn't have been taught to rely so much on the Kyuubi's power. I should have been cultivating my own, improving myself without the fox's help. And you blame Jiraiya for that? No, I think we're equally to blame. Him for pushing the issue and me for going along with it. I just want to get better. I want Jiraiya to be proud of me for the things he taught me, not the things he messed up on. He's not perfect, but he strives for perfection. It eats him up inside. Tenten sat up and hugged Naruto before standing and offering him her hand. Let's go to bed. We'll deal with all this in the morning. Naruto took her hand and looked at the clock. It is morning. Tenten awoke sometime around noon in Naruto's arms. She looked at his furrowed brow and frowned. It seemed even in sleep he was troubled about current events. She wished she could help more. Perhaps, on the trip she could be of more use. She had trained Naruto in Kenjutsu and had kept him in line more or less. But besides that, she hadn't done more than offer emotional support. It was more than he'd had in his life, but she could have done more. That's what she told herself. She was so lost in thought she didn't see Naruto wake up and stare at her, the worried look on her face troubling him. Whatever you're thinking, Ten-chan, stop. She flipped her eyes open and stared at him. I was just thinking about how you could help more. You help plenty. I could do more. You do enough. I want to do more. See, that's different. But I don't know how you can. He watched her head tilt down and cupped his hand under her chin, lifting her gaze back up to his eyes. I don't know how you can, but Sanosuke might. We can ask him later. She smiled and he caressed her cheek with his thumb. We've only got today left. Let's go enjoy ourselves at least. Tenten nodded and stood up, cracking her back, wearing only her panties and a muscle shirt that was entirely too loose. She turned to see Naruto hypnotized by her and wiggled her butt in his direction. See something you like, Naru-kun? He nodded his head up and down dumbly. She grinned and hiked her pants up. Too bad. We need to go out, remember? He growled and stood upright himself, his back to her. Oh, look at that. I seem to have fallen out of my boxes. Oh well, no PP for Tenten. The girl lunged over the bed, trying to get a look, but Naruto jerked his pants up quickly and spun around to face a pouting Tenten, waist level with him. He leaned down slowly until his nose met hers and grinned. TSK, Ten-chan. You're such a naughty girl. I can't help it when you're flaunting things I want in front of me. That's the pot calling the kettle black, I believe. He sat down on the bed, reaching for his shoes, and she sat up on her knees behind him. The tattoos looked so much different in the full light, so much more detailed. She traced the edge of one with her finger and Naruto shivered. Cold. No, it feels like you're actually touching my wing. It feels like you were running your finger along the top of the right one. I guess that's why Sanosuke said, even when they're not there, they're there. Tenten nodded and let him stand up. Naruto searched for a shirt to wear, but none would work if his wings appeared. Luckily for him, Tenten was a good seamstress. It came with messing with pointy things. You tend to put a lot of holes in clothing. Give me your shirt. He handed her the shirt dutifully and watched with wide eyes as she cut a section out of the back. What are you doing? You're going to ruin my shirt. Tenten glared at him in annoyance and continued with her task. I'm cutting it so that you can wear a shirt in public. We can't go some places if you're not wearing a shirt. I'm pretty sure having gigantic wings is another thing that'll get me banned. And I'm pretty sure that with enough practice you'll be able to retract them at will. If they retract when you need them to subconsciously, then with enough effort you can make them retract on command. I guess. She tossed him the shirt and he pulled it on over his head, the chain snaking its way around his waist. Tenten gathered up her shoes and pouch, following him to the door. Well, let's see if that shirt can fit your wings. Once they had stepped outside and Naruto was clear of the doorway, the tattoos began to shimmer and the wings sprouted slowly from his back. She watched with fascination as he stretched the wings to their fullest and let them settle back into a prone position. That feels good. I needed to stretch those kinks out. Tenten couldn't help herself and planted her face in between the wings, rubbing her cheek up and down. Fluffy. I am not fluffy. Whatever you say, Fluffy. He huffed and batted her slightly with a wing, causing her to squeak. Let's go get some lunch. I haven't had ramen in forever. Tsuki and Ayami had not seen Naruto in what seemed like forever. The last time he had stopped in had been to introduce his new girlfriend Tenten, and decimate their on-hand supply of every style of ramen. They had both heard rumors that the demon child had taken on an angelic appearance to better hide his true self, but they didn't believe it. Imagine their surprise when a blonde, winged man walked under the flaps of their establishment. Hiya Ayami, old man. It's been a while. The two Ichirakus gaped at the sight of their favorite customer until they heard a grunting sound and a bun-haired girl finally pushed past the feathery wings. Don't block the damn doorway, Naruto. I'm hungry too. He brought the wings back in slightly and rubbed the back of his head. Hey, sorry Ten-chan. I was just showing them my wings. He turned his head back around to address the two and found them nowhere in sight. Tenten watched with an amused smile as he shuddered when the father and daughter duo began to inspect the wings. Tsuki was in awe of them. Ayami, well, she just thought it made him look cuter. You two can stop fondling me, you know. Tsuki stopped and looked away, seemingly ashamed of himself. Ayami, however, kept rubbing the feathers with a slight blush on her face. But it feels so nice. Do I have to? Yes. She looked toward where the voice had come from and found a slightly miffed Tenten sitting on the stool beside Naruto. Ayami grinned cheekily, but thought better of teasing the weapons mistress. She didn't get the name by being pretty. Oh, alright, I guess since he's technically yours, I'll lay off. But if he ever becomes available. He won't. Ayami frowned and huffed as she straightened out a stray hair. I was just teasing you, Tenten-san. There's no reason to get all huffy. Naruto looked between the two of them, back and forth, and sighed. Tenten was way too protective. Ten-chan, stop that. You know Ayami is just teasing. Ayami, don't mess with her like that. You know how she gets. The two women looked anywhere but Naruto, one in indignity, one out of shame, both embarrassed. He sighed again and accepted a bowl from Tsuki. Thanks old man. Itadakimasu. Tenten's bowl came next and was handed to her by Ayami, who disappeared from view before reappearing next to her on a stool. Ayami sidled up as close as she could and put a hand to Tenten's ear. So, is he good to you? Tenten cut her a look, but whispered back between bites. Yes, he is. Better than anybody I could ever imagine. Why? Ayami grinned and sat up a little straighter. We always worried when he was little that he'd never find anybody, because of, well, you know. He never really knew how to act around girls, so we thought he'd be kind of awkward. Tenten smiled and blew on her noodles. It was kind of hard at first. He was really dense. It took forever to get him to see me as more than a friend. But once he did, it was like the floodgates opened. He's a perfect gentleman. She heard a loud slurping sound behind her and sighed dramatically. Most of the time, Ayami giggled and nodded her head before standing to go help her father cook. The boy could and probably would eat them out of business today. That's good to hear. I'm glad he found someone like you, Tenten. You'll be good for each other. What about you? Why didn't you ever go after him? Ayami blushed and twirled a strand of hair nervously in her fingers. Well, I might have, except he's a little too young for me. That, and he'd eat us out of house and home. I don't think we could afford the grocery bill between him and whatever kids we might have had. Tenten chuckled and turned back to her ramen, eating quickly to avoid it becoming too cold. Ayami appeared back around the counter and handed Naruto his 15th bowl. The boy had been busy while they chatted. Naruto and Tenten didn't do much the rest of the day. For some reason, all their friends seemed to be on missions and that suited them fine. They didn't want to have to say goodbye, seeing as they didn't know how long they'd be gone. They had gone home and gotten prepared for the trip before falling asleep together. As they rushed toward the gate, they saw Jiraiya standing solemnly with Sanosuke. Naruto frowned at the older man's hangdog look. It didn't belong on him. He made up his mind then and there. He couldn't have Jiraiya like this the whole TS. Sanosuke saw them coming and waved. Good morning. I take it you both slept well. The two nodded and the angel smiled. Good. Let's get going then. Before we go, I want to talk to Jiraiya, in private. The angel quirked an eyebrow but walked out the gate, motioning for Tenten to follow him. The girl gave Naruto a peck on the cheek and whispered in his ear. Just tell him what needs to be said. Naruto nodded and watched as the two stood quite a ways off, waiting for them. Jiraiya stood with his head down, waiting for a verbal onslaught. Jiraiya-sensei. Jiraiya's head snapped up. The brat had never called him sensei in all the years they'd traveled together. He watched with wary eyes as Naruto seemed to struggle for words. I don't blame you. And you shouldn't blame yourself either. It's both of our faults I'm like this. We both could have done things differently but we didn't. We have the opportunity to undo the damage done though and perhaps, maybe rid the world of a great menace. Jiraiya nodded and the light seemed to come back into his eyes a little. How do you propose we do this, Naruto? The blonde grinned and motioned for them to start walking. One day at a time, Ero Sennin. One day at a time. Jiraiya locked step with his pupil and the corners of his lips quirked up slightly. He'd made mistakes in the past, now was the time to correct them. One day at a time. They were all sitting by the campfire right outside the border of river country, when a kunai whistled through the night air. All four of them rolled out of the light and into the bushes, watching for any signs of hostility. Itachi appeared in the light of the fire, with Kisame by his side, Samehada on his shoulder. Have you come to a decision, Naruto-kun? Do you accept? Kisame frowned and fingered Samehada nervously. What the hell are you talking about, Itachi? The Uchiha turned around and glared at his partner, Mangekyou blazing. Silence. Don't speak unless spoken to. Kisame clammed up, but he remained wary. He didn't like the way this was going down. Naruto-kun, have you accepted or not? Naruto emerged slowly from the shadows, his eyes shining in the light of the fire, his wings slightly splayed, his hammer held in his right hand. I have. I'll go along with your idea as long as it benefits both of us. As soon as it starts turning in your favor, I'll end the partnership. Itachi nodded. I agree. I too shall end our partnership if things swing in your favor. I still demand our fight, even if our alliance sours. Naruto nodded his assent. Kisame, tired of being on the outside, swung Samehada from his shoulder, glancing nervously between Naruto and Itachi. Itachi, what the hell are you talking about? Alliance. What damned alliance? What the hell's going on? Itachi ignored his fish-like partner and continued to look at Naruto. Consider this my gift to you, as proof of my loyalty to the pact. Without another word, Itachi turned to Kisame and uttered one word the man hoped never to hear. Tsukiyomi. Kisame twirled round and round in the red and black world, trying to figure out where he was. Itachi had mentioned the move enough he should know how to break out, but all his efforts proved futile. He soon found himself nailed to a cross, Itachi in front of him. Why, Itachi? You know Pain-sama will kill you for this. Zetsu has been following us the whole time. He'll find out and he'll kill you. Zetsu is inconsequential. He'll be taken care of immediately after I'm through with you. Now Kisame, prepare to meet your death. This can't kill me, Itachi. I'm too strong for anything you can throw at me. Your body is strong, fool, but your mind has always been weak. I believe I'll make your heart burst from fear. Now let's dig a little. What does Hoshigaki Kisame fear the most? I ain't telling you, traitor. The maniacal grin that splayed across Itachi's face frightened Kisame beyond belief. You don't have to. I know what your fear is. X. Naruto watched as Kisame's eyes went blank and then the man screamed in agony before dropping to the floor. Itachi snapped out of his trance and pointed to a tree not far from them. Destroy it. Naruto didn't hesitate in launching his hammer at the tree, decimating it. Before the hammer met the bark, Zetsu erupted from the trunk. Itachi, you traitor. You will be killed for this. Pain-sama will destroy you. So I've heard. Tell me, Naruto, do you know how the Akatsuki disposes of its victims? No. Itachi pointed at the man-plant hybrid. He devours them. Don't you, Zetsu? Pain-sama, allow me the honor of disposing of his enemies. You, Jinchuriki, will be next. Before Zetsu could move, he found himself fighting against Naruto's full fury. Zetsu had never been much of a front-line fighter. He much preferred the shadows and using the terrain to his advantage. This is why he gathered information for the Akatsuki. That didn't mean he couldn't take care of a too big for his pants brat though. Zetsu ducked and dodged the hammer, knowing that if it clipped him, he was done for. He'd observed the boy enough in the past months to get a good feel for his style. He'd always used the chain in conjunction with the hammer. What he hadn't seen was how the wings would play into this. Naruto made a hard swing with the hammer and let the momentum carry him around. As Zetsu stepped in for AS at his back, one of the wings hit him hard in the head and sent him flying back. The plant man shook his head groggily and sat up. This was unexpected. He needed to get away quickly, back to Pain-sama, and tell him of Itachi's betrayal. He found his arms and hands bound, however. That momentary distraction was all Naruto had needed. The chain had followed Zetsu as he flew, and as soon as he hit the ground, it had wound around his arms and clamped around his hands, preventing jutsus. The plant man watched with wide, angry, scared eyes as what seemed like the angel of death descended upon him. You can't kill me. I am a member of Akatsuki. We exist to rule. Pain-sama will destroy you. Naruto's lip curled back in a sneer as he raised his hammer high overhead. This monster had to his sins were too heavy. Guilty. The last thing Zetsu saw in this world was the sight of Naruto with his wings splayed out and the look of disgust on his face. The hammer crashed down upon his head, sending bits and pieces of brain and skull splattering everywhere. That had been the real Zetsu. Itachi confirmed it as green blood spilled out of the body's end. The man had been paranoid and careful, but he had been sure that his fellow Akatsuki would not betray Pain. To do so was certain death. Naruto turned back to Itachi and whipped his hammer backwards, ridding it of any stray blood and brain. What happened to Kisame? I used Tsukiyomi to show him his greatest fear. He SD of a heart attack. Such an ignoble defeat. Such a horrible way for a ninja to go. And Zetsu, do you feel nothing for his death? No. We were partners in a group of convenience. It could very well have been me there. Zetsu was careless this time. Had he actually been serious and not been shocked by my betrayal, he would have fled to Pain. His death will make things easier. There will be no one following us as I pretend to hunt you. Sanosuke stepped forward and put his hand on Naruto's shoulder. Are you all right? You just killed a guilty man. Do not let his death weigh on your conscience. Naruto slowly turned his head to look at Sanosuke. I did what had to be done. I didn't want to kill him, but it was necessary and his crimes were many. I can only hope Kami will forgive me. Men this evil don't belong on this world, Naruto. They'll upset the balance. That's why you're here. It's what you were chosen to do. Naruto nodded and looked at Tenten and Jiraiya. The two looked different. They strode forward together, Tenten to Sanosuke, Jiraiya to Naruto. I'm proud of you, brat. I didn't think you could actually kill a man like that. You're truly a ninja in my eyes now. I'll help however I can. Naruto gave him a small smile. Thanks, Ero Sennin. Tenten, meanwhile, was talking to Sanosuke. I want to help. I want to help him. Teach me how to help him. Sanosuke grinned and nodded. It's about time. I didn't think you'd ever ask. The bun-haired girl looked at him with confusion. You were waiting for me to ask. Of course. What? You thought that just because you were his soulmate you got to sit back on an easy ride and teach him kenjutsu? No, that's not true at all. We just had to get your weapon for you. Tenten looked back to Naruto and Jiraiya, who were now listening with rapt attention. What weapon? I have a holy weapon. The angel nodded. Well, where is it? Sanosuke pointed to where Kisame lay. That is your weapon. But that weapon has been used for ill. How can it be holy? A weapon is only that, a weapon. How it is used is up to the wielder. The Kusanagi blade is a holy weapon and yet, Orochimaru uses it with no side effects. This is another example. Sanosuke stepped up to the giant sword and reached to grab it but was stopped by Tenten. Don't. The last time someone grabbed that besides Kisame, their hand was impaled by spikes from the hilt. Sanosuke gave the girl a hard stare and she flinched. Don't interrupt if you want me to teach you. This is your sword now. Take it. She reached out hesitantly and finally grasped the hilt before holding it aloft. Surprisingly, it felt weightless. She voiced that thought. That's because it's yours. Kisame could barely hold it aloft when he first got it, and that's because he obtained it through dubious means. The sword finally bent to his will over time and became his. But this is not its true appearance. What do you mean? This sword has, over time, shaped itself to become like its master. Sharkskin is not even its real name. What is its real name? Sanosuke smiled and turned away from her. That is for you to find out. I will not help you until you can show this sword its true self. Tenten held the sword aloft and stared at it. I will. A cough came from behind them and they turned to find Itachi standing by the fire. Might I suggest we dispose of these boss and then settle down to talk about the future? The group nodded and Jiraiya walked off a ways to dispose of the boss in the belly of the fire mountain toad. When he returned, he sat down opposite of Itachi and looked at everyone. Let's get a plan going. Uchiha, tell us what you know and we'll swap information. Itachi nodded and closed his eyes before opening them to reveal his normal coal-black irises. Very well. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.